Right, I think we're live, guys. So, welcome back to Rob and Kim, who are here to talk to us about the heat loss calculation and the importance thereof in heating systems in customers' homes. So, let's start with why. Why is it so important to do this heat loss calculation?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it, Rob.
Well, basically, anything else without a heat loss calculation is guesswork. And whilst for 40 odd years we've got away with guesswork because gas is so forgiving, as we now move towards low temperature systems, it's not just a simple question of turning things down. There's a question of balancing and a question of understanding whether your radiators are the correct size, etc., etc. So a room by room heat loss calculation is imperative to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a room by room initially. It's just an overall house heat loss calculation can do the job. But as we kind of go more towards low temperature systems and we start to get our systems future proofed for heat pumps, etc., etc., heat pumps are just not forgiving at all in that sense. And if you oversize them in any stretch of the imagination, you're basically opening up a massive can of worms and a world of hurt. So it's now's the time really to be sort of getting involved in doing those calculations. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to sell software at all. I'm saying it because anything that complies with EN 12831, which is the industry guidelines for heat loss calculations, is going to need to be adhered to. It's something that government are mandating now. They're going to be mandating 55-degree flow temperatures on all new builds. And from what I understand, from about 2025 or 2028, I'm not sure which one it is yet, but they will also be mandating it under the benchmark system for boiler replacements as well. So we've only got a few years really to sort of get it going, and so I guess now's the time.
Fab. Anything to add to that, Kim?
Yeah, it's Rob's dead right with the guessing. I'll try and sort of have a parallel with it about buying a suit from a tailor. If you phoned up a tailor and you wanted a posh suit being made, you wouldn't just phone the tailor up and say, hey, can you make me a suit? And the tailor would just say, yeah, no worries, I'll make you one. And then you just hope for the best that it's going to fit. The tailor is obviously going to make sure that the suit is going to be amply big enough in case his customer is a very large guy. So if a small guy turns up, he's going to be given a very large suit. And that's sort of what's happening here. We're looking at maybe small, medium and large size houses, but it's all hearsay about how many kilowatts of energy we think each one of these types of houses needs. And of course, every house is different. You can have a large house which has got very, very good insulation, nice and modern, which will have a far smaller heat loss than a small old house that has sash windows and no loft and cavity insulation. So every house is different, and Rob's absolutely right. If you start off with a guess, everything else just is a compound issue on that guess. And of course, if you're going to guess, you're always going to overestimate. There's no way you want to put in a plant into any installation and have people saying they're cold at the end. So you're always going to oversize everything. And to quote a very well-used expression, we're in the midst of an absolute epidemic of oversizing, and it's not just the boilers, it's everything. It's pump sizing, it's radiator sizing, it's pipe sizing, it's all of these things. And so it's really, really, really important that when we get involved in trying to upgrade or redesign or better or improve any system, that you've got to do a heat loss first. I mean, Rob's dead right. You can do a simple heat loss on the whole house. That will give you a clue what size boiler you need. But in actual fact, when it comes to distributing that energy to the individual rooms, it's important that each room only gets the amount of energy that it needs. If we pump too much energy into the room, it's going to cause problems. The room's going to overheat and we're wasting energy. So heat loss, absolutely critical. And I've been a big fan. I mean, obviously I'm friends with Rob, but I mean, it's because I've been a heat engineer customer for forever. It's a great piece of kit and it's easy to use, and there's no reason why installers shouldn't do that.
I mean, a good thing, just to add to that, one of the good things that it has come out of this is that because we have been oversizing, we haven't just been oversizing, as Kim says, the plant or the heat source. We've been oversizing everything else, so the emitters and pipe work and all the rest of it, which we haven't done. So therefore, for low temperature systems which require higher flow rates, a lot of these downstream systems don't need much at all. I mean, they do need calculating and finding out exactly what heat you want. I mean, our job is to get the right amount of heat to the right place at the right time. But the good thing is that a lot of this won't need touching. It's going to be the main heat sources that are there, and hopefully range rating boilers down using weather compensation controllers or load compensation controllers in order to reduce the flow temperatures and get them down to the systems for comfort, but save thousands of kilowatt hours potentially on each home over the course of a year, which is a huge saving, especially now.
Massive. So it's really it's all really tied in together. It's the heat loss calculation and the balancing and making sure the boiler's the right size and the radiators are all the right size to make sure that the system's sort of running at the optimum it can.
Yeah, I mean, basically, even if a radiator is oversized, you can still get the right amount of power going into it. That's not a problem. It's with radiators. It's undersizing is probably the biggest issue with this kind of design side. But again, if you're not calculating, you're guessing. And I think the unfortunate thing is that so many engineers have always just relied on the standard radiator price lists that come out, the DT50 price lists, which have been out since I started 40 years ago, of 70-degree mean water temperature in the radiator. And the DT50 meaning 70, 75, 65 flow and return temperatures with a 20-degree room temperature. So it'd be 75, 65. So that's 50-degree minus your 20 degrees. That gives you your 50-degree. 75, 65 gives you a 70-degree mean water temperature minus your 20-degree room temperature gives you 50 degrees. So that's your Delta T50 radiator list that we've all been used to. Now, what we're going to need to be doing is moving towards more like a DT30 list, something along those lines, which you have to almost beat up the radiator supply companies in order to get them, or try and find these lists online, or you have to start working as Kim and I do with correction factors, or use software like ours which does all the correction factors for you to tell you what the outputs are at the lower flow temperatures.
Yeah, I think the radiator companies are very, very slow in picking up what's bound to be a booming business for them. But I know certainly that I would say 11 out of every 12 that come to me don't know. First of all, you quoted an expression that you and I use every day, the mean water temperature. For those amongst us that aren't mathematicians, mean is a mathematical term which means average. I was saying mean water temperature for a long time until some guy said, "What does that mean? Mean? What does mean mean?" And it's not mean as in being tight. It's a mathematical expression. So I actually now call it the middle water temperature, or the average water temperature. Well, it is what it is, isn't it? It's halfway up and halfway down. It's the average temperature of the water in the radiator. But yeah, I mean, even when you look in the Stelrad book, well, there isn't a book now. When you look online, there never seems to be an easy option to just get an answer. You have to faff around with a calculator. And then again, we won't get too technical, but we've got 3 ways that we can pipe our radiators up. We can have it going in the bottom either end. We can have it going in top and bottom one side, or we can have it going in the top one side and the bottom the other side. And each one of those options gives out a different amount of energy. So there's a correction factor because you're actually using a different average water temperature. And then there's another correction factor depending on which way the installer's piping his pipe hook up. Now, traditionally in the UK, we do what's called BOE, bottom opposite ends. But of course, that's not how they were tested. They were tested top and bottom, same end. So it's all very, very confusing for the installer, never mind the poor old customer. Yeah. So we could really do with trying to streamline these things just to make things easier for the installer to understand. I have this thing that all the manufacturers went out on a Christmas do in 1999, and their New Year's or the new millennium resolution was to make things as unnecessarily complicated and tangled as they possibly could for the installers. And they do. They use different units. They do use different ways of saying things. And installers look at these things. They want to do the job right. It's not that they don't want to do it. They want to do the job right. And you look at this bit of paper that comes out with whatever particular piece of kit it is, and you try and read it and understand it and think, good grief, what does all that mean? And so you go back to what you know best, which is what you've always done before. So moving on and trying new stuff it's a real challenge to a guy. And Ryan and I have both been there when you try something new, or you think you've done something right, and you're not 100% sure. You know, there's usually no one to ask because you're sort of pioneering amongst your own sort of peer group with your local installers, and you just open pray. And if it doesn't go right, then the next time you think, well, I can't be doing with that, I'll just go back to the way we've always done it. So that, you know, the helping hand isn't there to get some assistance just for those first 1 or 2 jobs when you're doing maybe the first low temperature one, or maybe when you're doing your first heat loss. I mean, I remember phoning Rob up when I did my first one and saying, mate, this can't be right. Remember that? I said, this can't be right. It's only 6, I can't remember what it was now, 6 kilowatts or something. I said, this can't be right. This is like a 4-bedroom house. And it was a real eye-opener to me, you know. And if I didn't happen to have known Rob personally, I probably wouldn't have phoned up. You know, you think it's going to be some inanimate person on the end, and you're going to get a load of technical jargon, fired at you down the telephone. Makes you feel even worse.
Well, that's one of the really good things about these sessions, is that the guys see you, and then they can kind of reach out to you on Facebook, on your pages, or on our page if they want to do this stuff and they've got questions. Then they can put that to the group, and they can get their help from. That's what's really nice about the group. It's really helpful. And even if you guys don't answer, there'll be other people within the group who do this. And if they're doing their first one and they need a bit of a hand, then they can come and post the question on here, can't they?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there are quite a few places where I think you can do that. Obviously, for your guys, they've got their own place. But you've got Heat Geek. He's got his. He offers a helping hand to the guys that he helps to train. We've got the 𝗫𝗺𝗺𝗃 forum. That's sort of where me and Rob and our little gang sort of hang out, if you like, offering what advice we can in there. So there are various, and there's private people, and loads of guys obviously know what. There's obviously loads of guys out there that know what they're doing. But I do understand sometimes that, looking at it from a competition point of view, you don't always want to tell your competitors what the cheap or the easy or the best way of doing something is. You know, why would you help a competitor? So there's always a bit of a trade-off with these things. It's nice to find a comfortable place where you can ask a daft question and not feel uncomfy.
I don't think there's any excuse now for not learning. There are so many different avenues for people to kind of get information now and move towards lower temp systems, and, you know, calculating those things out. And it's, you know, it's not from not just our lot. I mean, there's so many out there now that are doing heat loss calculations, offering them. There's free software out there. There's paid software like ours. I mean, part of ours is free, but, you know, it's becoming more and more common for people to do it. You know, radiators, for argument's sake, as we were just saying, will always be sized aesthetically for people's houses. They won't be sized for what the exact size is that you want. They'll go, well, it's going to fit under that window and look nice, or it's going to fit by your side door or your French dresser or whatever it is, isn't it? It's not going to, you know, I mean, you know, I think the problem that we've hit on, and I think a lot of you guys listening now will probably pick up on this. All the new builds that we have, when you walk in there, and they're all running at 80-degree flow temperature and 60-degree return temperature, and they've got postage size radiators dotted around the place. It's that's where we're going to start to get the problems in a few years' time, when these places are either being updated to, because a client wants to have a heat pump installed or something along those lines. That's when these calculations are really going to come in. But it's, you know, nothing focuses the mind than emptying your wallet more, does it? You know, it's simple as that. And what's going on at the moment is wallets are being emptied, you know, without our consent. You know, so, you know, we've got to really start focusing the mind and start getting these calculations done.
Yeah. So you both have talked about software and apps and things that make this calculation easier. Does it have to be done on an app, or is it something that they can do manually on a piece of paper with a calculator and a tape measure? Or
yeah, well, you can. I mean, I do some training courses on how to do it longhand, but, you know, why would you I mean,
would you?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like saying, you know, why would you ever own like a Yankee screwdriver anymore when you can buy a cordless? You know, it kind of saves you so much time as opposed to trying to screw it in manually. You know,
showing your age, yeah, pal.
I am. Well, I remember putting a floor down with 2-inch 12s on one of that manually. Good pilot drilling every single one. It was a nightmare. But yeah, you know, it's that was the thing. You know, it's, you know, I'm all for using tools to get the job done and get yourself moving on. I think, you know, it's with ours, you know, most people have even a laser measure these days. They don't have a tape measure as such, but, you know, with a laser measure, I mean, you can get room volumes, you can get floor square meters, window square meters. I mean, I can go into a 4-bedroom detached house with a laser measure now and measure it up in an hour or just under an hour, you know, which is quite quick. And then when I get home you know, I send the survey to our software and I can complete that in about 15-20 minutes when I get back home. So it's not a lot of time, but it's a service, you know, and I've got a you know, a complete thing that I believe in with in my life now. If you don't want to pay me, don't ring me, you know. And I think you know, we're professionals, you know. We are professionals. We spent a long time getting our qualifications and doing the things that we do. You know, if you do a heat loss calculation for somebody and you don't get the job, then they should pay you for the heat loss calculation, because they're going to be able to use it wherever they go to, you know, and whatever client goes to it, you know.
So this leads on really well to what I was talking to you about earlier, Rob. And obviously we see a lot of guys who post things about their customers and they're querying the quotes and they're saying, well, I can get that down there for cheaper, or why are you charging me this much money for doing the boiler? John down the road can do it for 50 quid or whatever. You know, this seems, for a homeowner, as I am, and not being completely au fait with the heat loss calculation, to me, it seems like it could potentially be seen by a customer as a sort of hidden extra that can't be explained away, so that you put this heat loss calculation onto your quote, and then you give it to your customer and they're like, you know, what's that all about, type thing. And it's really important to, like, what's the best way for them to explain away to their customer why it's so important? And are there any like tools that they could use, like education for the homeowner tools? Do you know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, any client will have, you know, years and years and years of post energy usage within their property, you know, throughout their bills, whether they've got a smart meter, all sorts of things like that. We're talking to some energy companies right now to state that basically when you've done a heat loss calculation, for argument's sake, you can enter in 2 years of previous energy usage. I mean, our software models the energy usage anyway, but there's obviously some discrepancies with that, with kind of occupancy. You know, people might be having 2-3 showers a day or whatever it is that they want to do. It's different lifestyles, obviously. But if you then put in real-time usage afterwards, or if you have a dynamic link to our software with smart meters or something like that, I'm not saying that's going to happen yet. We're just in talks with energy companies now, but that's the way I see it moving forward. And it actually, then you can say to a client, look, we've got proven data here. I say, we don't make the mathematics up on this. There's proven data here that if you do this, this is going to save you, blah 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 blah. Now that's a big sell for people. And it's we find that most guys that now are subscribed to us, their companies, they win the work just by producing reports. As I say, that could be any software company or any heat loss company that's there. As long as you've got a bona fide report that complies with the current regulation, then you're going to win the work. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But like I say, if you don't get the work, or you want to charge up front for these things, then you should do, as far as I'm concerned.
Perfectly.
Yeah, I would just add, as an installer, one of the biggest advantages I found was that Rob's software in particular, it's probably not the only one, but certainly Rob's does a nice A4 sheeted report, about 7 or 8 pages, and it breaks everything down. Now, even though the customer probably wouldn't understand what any of it means, you can put your own sort of logo on the front, you can bind it, you can take it to your customer with your quote, and they can see that you know what you're doing. And the usual scenario that I found myself is that I'm trying to offer a very small boiler, maybe a 12 or a 15 kilowatt boiler, and the other guy's trying to fit a 30 or a 35 kilowatt boiler. And I can show the document, say, look, these are the documents that I've worked out on. Can you show me the other guys? Maybe I've made a mistake. I don't think I have, but if the other 2 guys both say it comes to 30, then okay, maybe I've done it wrong. But if both of these guys haven't done anything, then where are they getting their figures from? I mean, we're moving into a different era now in heating, and we've got to change the way we do things. I mean, at the minute we'll have an ordinary house maybe that needs 6 kilowatts, let's say, when it's sort of -4 outside. and we're fitting, I don't know, 24, 28, 32 kilowatt boiler. Fair comment, that's primarily because we're sizing the boiler for the hot water. But even when that boiler's on heating, it's still potentially 20, 25 kilowatts of heating. And you just don't, first of all, you just don't need it. It doesn't do you any favors at all doing that, especially on these cheaper boilers that you can't range rate. But if we put a heat pump into that house, that same house will only be able to have a 6 kilowatt heat pump. So we can't afford to lose anything anywhere. We need to know exactly what it is we're up against, which is why it's so important we do the heat loss. And you've got to throw into the pot also that 6 kilowatt heat pump not only has got to supply 6 kilowatts of heat when it's cold, it's also got to supply all the hot water as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're moving into a different era where things have to be done correctly or they're not going to work. And I think we've all read horror stories of, you know, people with humongous electricity bills. And what's that going to be like this month or next month? No, it's this month now, isn't it? You know, when these new horrific electricity tariffs come in.
Well, actually,
we have a moral duty almost.
We
you
do.
know, I don't know, the National Health stepped up when COVID came in, and it's almost sort of time for us in the heating industry to step up now and do our bit to try and, you know, make life a bit more bearable.
That is a thing to say. That is a thing to say and to highlight, Kim. I mean, these prices are going up from midnight tonight. So I would say to anybody that's listening to this and everybody here is go and take your meter readings before midnight tonight and actually download them upload them up onto your energy provider, so you lock in those fees up to midnight. So they can't.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you definitely do that. I'm going to do mine when we've done this. I should be doing mine tonight. But it's quite important, you know, all these sorts of things. It's going to, as I say, this is going to focus the mind with a lot of people, and unfortunately, what's going to happen is they're going to come knocking on our door, saying, "How on earth are we going to save money here? I can't afford to run my boiler and blah blah this, blah blah that." And the best that we can possibly do, I mean, my house is a Victorian mid terrace, you know, a 2 up, 2 down mid terrace that I refurbished about 16 years ago, when I moved in here. I didn't do the best job in the world. I know an awful lot more about the construction, about the taping and jointing of materials now with insulation wise, but didn't do too bad a job of it. But it's still solid walls, etc., etc. My house is only 4.5 kilowatt, the requirement, and that's at -2 outside. So I've really got a very low heat requirement for my house. So my house is very, very well suited to a heat pump, and it's ready for a heat pump. But it runs most of the time, you know, on very, very, very low load compensation. So it's, you know, my flow temperatures, I think today, even though we had a few flurries of snow, I don't know whether you guys had some, but we had a few flurries of snow here today in, you know, just North London, and it said it was kind of, you know, 1 degree or something like that outside, but my flow temperature when I looked at it was still down at 40 degrees. It was, you know, it was amazing. So, you know, we've got the other thing as well, I think, with when it goes down to heat pumps, is that, you know, a 3 kilowatt immersion heater will heat a tank of water up. Yeah, it'll take some time, you know, an hour or two, you know, to do it. But we've got some of the worst building for heat loss in the world, actually, but certainly it's the worst in Europe, where we lose 3 degrees in every 5 hours, which is quite a lot. But if you're sizing your tanks properly for low temperature and heat pump systems, these could be heated up overnight when you have a 2 or 3 degree setback, you know, quite easily with that storage. So your heat pump is working. You want that compressor running, you know, 23 out of every 24 hours, ideally, to stop any cycling or any scenario running like that. There's no reason that it couldn't do that. You know, so I think it's just going to be, you know, from Drayton's perspective, it's going to be about controlling this and getting this into some kind of, you know, sweet spot and tick over scenario. But, you know, the mantra is this: we've got to start heating long, low, and slow. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Gone are the days of on off. We can't have that anymore.
No, not if everybody's going to be able to afford their heating. And like you say, it's kind of it's installers. Somebody's posted a question actually on the chat. I'm asking, this ties in quite nicely, how the likes of Drayton are educating the customers. And, you know, we are educating our customers. We have a consumer channel nowadays because of our wiser smart control. So we do have a consumer audience. We do a lot of work with the consumer press and a lot of consumer socials. And we are this year focusing a lot on these, what we talked about back in January, the low flow temperature, and the fact that top 5 energy saving tips, upgrade to smart, turn your thermostat down by 1 degree can save you £80 a year. Those sort of top tips are things that we're sharing on our consumer side, as well as sharing with the installers, so they can then go out and be the educator. Kim, you said we're in a place of transition, and we need to, as like the face of the installers need to be teaching, educating their customers on how best they can advise them to save money on their energy. We all know that energy used in the home, 50% of it is taken up by heating and hot water. That's massive. So half of your energy bill doesn't go on your lights and your telly and your fridge and all of that stuff. It goes on your heating and your hot water. So it is all about how we can get that message out to the customers, whilst telling them, advising them on low flow temperatures, on the balancing, and on turning temperatures down, and what they can save with different sort of controls, and not, as you say, Rob, sitting anymore with on-off controls. That it needs to be cleverer than that. And
you can't do anything. Low temperature is the only way you're going to achieve these efficiencies in whatever the heat source type is. That's a fact. I don't know. I mean, what we're trying to do, and I hope Drayton and other manufacturers are going to get on board and try and do this as well. Is that I've written before about joined up thinking in the industry, and it needs all of us. It needs not just manufacturers. It needs guys like us, these trainers. It needs all sorts of different companies, small or whatever the initiative is, to start working together, which I think is starting to happen, which is really good. I mean, we're just setting up a platform now where the members of the public can actually just come straight onto our software or onto our homepage, and they can click on. It's not so much find an installer, but it's find a surveyor. So you'd find a surveyor, and they would just type in their postcode, and they can type in a 20-mile radius, a 50-mile radius, or blah blah blah. And what it does then, it actually gives them somebody who's subscribed to us, who can definitely go down and give them a proper heat loss calculation and explain exactly why it's important to have these things done. But also, we'll be producing fact data downloads for the clients, for the general public, to be able to kind of get and educate themselves. So I think we have a duty, I think, in that sense, to try and educate the public, but also there's a fiscal point there for us, because the more people we do educate, the more people are going to come on board and actually get involved and do something about it, I guess. And we get to sell a few surveys. Might be quite nice. You
get to sell a few surveys. The installers get more work out of it, and ultimately, the winner at the end of the day is the planet, isn't it? And all of these net zero and reduced carbon emissions is where we are heading that way. We have to head that way, and this is going to be a massive factor in getting there to those targets that are being set.
Sure.
The other thing that I think you've missed, Rob, a really good feature in your particular software is the ability, when it prints out all the data, is to show the customers the rooms that are most poorly insulated, and the one that has the smallest, if you like, per cubic meter of radiator size. Because I think we all know that radiators are oversized. The chances are there's probably one or two that aren't, and if we can just upgrade those one or two radiators to make them as oversized as the rest of the radiators, then we can reduce the overall temperature anyway before we do anything else. But the heat loss, when you do the individual heat loss, they come out color coded. So anything green is good, anything amber is worth looking at. But some of the red ones are quite an eye opener. I've done a few jobs where you say, look, it's your front room. Where's all this? Have I made a mistake? That's the first thing. Well, if you're happy you haven't made a mistake with the figures, you think, right, okay, what's the problem? And then I've been to a couple of places where it turns out that there isn't cavity wall insulation. The customer thinks it's cavity wall insulation because 15 years ago when they bought the house, they think the previous owner told them. So you do your calculation, and that's not the case. So, and also windows that don't shut properly. You have a good look all around your windows. You think, bloody hell, I can see daylight through there. Never realised that before. And so even small things like that can make a lot of difference to your heat loss. And I think that if I get this expression right now, what is it? It's fabric first, isn't it?
Fabric first.
Fabric first and insulation before installation. Let me get that right here. Insulation before installation.
That's correct.
Because what we don't want to be doing is fitting new plant into silly poorly insulated properties.
Exactly.
So again, doing a good heat loss will show you where to look.
Or I guess doing a heat loss calculation if you're like before you have installation fitted. So if you have,
you have to quantify the problem, and that's a massive task. I mean, I don't know how many houses we've got in the UK now. It's about 30 odd million, isn't it? Something like that. I don't know, something like for 25, 30 million houses. Now, if we've got that many houses, and the heat requirement is not quantified, you know, we got no starting point. There's absolutely nowhere to even think about addressing this problem, because we're just we're trying to fight an army that we just can't see. You know, it's as simple as that. That's the problem. So we've got to try and get a visual perspective on this, and I think that's the very, very first and foremost point. And then what we say is once you've done a survey, you can then copy the survey and then start modeling. So you can then add insulation to certain walls or certain areas, add to the floor, put some underfloor heating in, or put some bigger radiators in and drop the flow temperatures down, and then have a look at what the end results are and what the end savings are. You know, so our software completely does that. There's no dramas with that at all. I just noticed, which ties into what I was just about to say, but someone, a Facebook user, has just said, is there an approved guidance that we can point the customer to? Well, it's the guidance for heat loss calculations is EN12831, and you can look that up. But every software or heat loss company that is worth any salt is complies to that. If they don't comply with that, I would suggest that you don't use them. But it's exactly the same with radiators. If a radiator company doesn't comply with EN442, don't fit those either. There's a lot of these designer radiators that don't give you the outputs at 70-degree mean water temperature. I'd advise to walk away.
Rob, can you tell me those guidances again afterwards so that I can get a response through to?
Shall I put them in the chat?
Yes, please, and then I can let you know. I don't know what your name is. It's 𝗵𝗲𝗁𝗁𝗆𝗃. I don't know what your name is, but you're commenting a lot, which is fantastic. Great to see. But we'll post a comment on there afterwards. I know it was Ian something, but I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, there's one good comment here, or certainly, yeah. It says a lot of customers. Oh, I've lost it. It's just jumped. It says a lot of customers simply don't believe tradesmen. And that's
the same guy, Kim. That's the same guy, and he's the one who's asking, and he was the one who asked the question earlier about, you know, how do we sell this to the customer? You know, there's a lot of people out there who don't get it.
It is difficult. I mean, I absolutely understand his comment. A lot of customers simply don't believe tradesmen. I mean, we've got such a bad reputation for ripping people off. I can, as an industry generally, I can understand that, you know. And it is difficult when you try to be genuine. I suppose you've got to sell yourself as well as sell the product.
For sure.
You know, you've got to maybe be, I don't know how to be sincere or whatever, but there's only so much you can do in the way of trying to convince people. And I think, I mean, the other issue that we have, you talk about educating the customers. Dad has always bought the bigger of the 3-engine cars, because when you go to the showroom, you know, the wife wants you to buy a 1300. The logical one to buy is the 1600, but Dad, of course, wants a 2-litre. And the way the salesman sells the 2-litre car is, well, it's not going to be working so hard. And if you do need that extra bit of power to get away at the traffic lights, you know, you've always got it there, and it's only a little bit more money, you know, on top. And Dad applies boiler sizing in the same way.
Logic.
And so you say to the guy, mate, you only need 12 kilowatts. My mate down the pub, he's got a 35 kilowatt. I see they do a 42 kilowatt. I want to have one of those just in case I'm cold. And that's a difficult one to get around as well. I mean, my favourite way of dealing with that is, look, you only need 9. What do you want me to do with the other 24? Do you want me to shift them into next door? Because we could heat the rest of the street.
Right.
If you want. But of course, it's difficult trying to convince anyone, especially if you've had 3 or 4 quotes and everyone else is fitting the usual, it needs a 30 kilowatt or whatever, you know, we'll put a 32 in to be sure. When somebody else turns up and says, well, you only need 12.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and it is difficult. I get that. I don't know how we get around that. I don't know how we get around that.
No, it is. You got to. I mean, look, boilers aren't cars. It's as simple as that. You know, they're not there to heat your home. What are you trying to do with the boiler? You're trying to save money, aren't you? With a car, you're trying to spend it.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. That's
Yeah,
basically what it is, isn't it? That's the way I would say it to people. I just see Rich has posted something up here. What's this?
Yeah, I'm just reading that one as well.
Recently had a new EPC done on the homes, less than half the actual kilowatt. Oh yeah, that's surprise. The 𝗵𝗲𝗁𝗃 didn't know why the software they used in the 𝗵𝗲 so off ramp, but when the appliance heated the home was changed, the actual kilowatt home changed. So many things are wrong with it. Yeah, look, I mean, look, SAP's changing next year, Rich. I think that you know that, and I think. Look, I'm actually quite upbeat about the EPC because I know that EPC's had a really bad name over the last kind of, I don't know, 5-6 years or something like that. But companies like 𝗵𝗲 Energy and stuff like that, which are coming up, and they're trying to get an accreditation process going in place for EPC training. And I'm not talking about EPC training that's just like half a day's training and then you're all qualified and you can go out and do it. That morning you're a window fitter, in the afternoon you're an EPC assessor. Those days have got to go, and I think that the industry has realised that that's the case. But like any of this, it's going to take some time. I mean, the government have kind of set out all these targets of what they want to do, and these utopic kind of visions about when they're going to happen. It's 600,000 heat pumps by 2028 is a massive ask. Especially as what did we do last year? 30,000, didn't we, or something like that? And most of that was because they were trying to get the RHI in before it finishes tonight. Tonight's the last night, isn't it? I'm not sure. I'm upbeat. I'm definitely upbeat about this, and I think that the EPC will become an industry in and of its own and get a good name over the coming years. I think would be great. I also think that the industry, I mean, our industry at the end of the day as heating engineers, we're asked to do too much. It's as simple as that. We're asked to do, calculate the heat loss. We're asked to do the controls. We're asked to do all the fluid systems, the roof work, the building making good, everything. Absolutely everything. And it's as if our job isn't hard and technical enough. We're one of the only countries in Europe that try to do it all. And learn it all. And you just there's not enough hours in the day. There's just not enough hours in the day to do it. And I think that is what's partially led to this kind of race to the bottom, really. With people, I mean, I've heard of people going in and slinging in a combi boiler on their way home from work, because it's going to pay them $1,000, and fair play to them if they can get it. But it's I don't know. To answer your question, Rich, I don't know. I mean, I'll have a private conversation with you about this, as you know. But certainly SAP is changing, and from what I understand, EPC is going to get a real kick up the old, which is what it needs.
So our Facebook user is that Matt, our Facebook user, is it? I think
it depends which question it is.
Oh, well, we're not too worried. One of our questions is there an approved place that you can refer a customer to? I don't know if there's an approved place, but there's certainly a heating consumer website called the Heating Hub. I think you probably know Jo, do you? Jo,
I was just going to post the website and see if she's got anything specific about.
She is very specific on this. I mean, she's taken all the boiler manufacturers to task with their somewhat vague advertising. The fact that they, if you go onto the box website and you've got a 3-bed house, they'll just straight away say you need at least a 30 kilowatt boiler. Well, she'll argue the toss with that and say, well, no, you don't actually. You could, especially if it's a cylinder, you could do it on a boiler which is much smaller than that. She does some good videos for the consumer, trying to explain exactly what we've been talking about. And I think she does something. I think she mentions heat loss as well, doesn't she, Rob?
Yes, she does. Yeah.
I mean, certainly it's a very comprehensive website, and she's like a net for customers who've given up having faith in any of the installers that have come. So you can get in touch with her and say, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. I've had so many weird and wonderful quotes, not happy really with any of them. If everyone was saying sort of generally the same thing, you would feel a bit more confident. And she'll sort of pick up the mantle, and she's very much a heating engineer as well. And she'll pick up the mantle and try and not only help to design the system, but also to try and find a suitable installer. that she's confident that we'll be able to, you know, understand and do all the calculations, so on and so forth, for the system. So although she's not, I don't think you could call her official, she's certainly very, very good at putting the customer's mind at ease, I think.
And there's lots of resource on her website as well. There's all sorts of stuff on there, and you know, it is a website visited by a lot of consumers, I believe. And you know, installers just need that sort of something to sort of say, have a look at this, read this article, and you'll see what we're talking about. Because obviously, talking to installers and talking to consumers is a whole different thing. And while we do need our installers to kind of pick up the mantle and be our kind of champions for energy efficiency and take it to the consumer, we also do need to educate the consumer. That is, you know, like you said earlier, it's kind of a, let's take it as a holistic thing, and everybody work together to try and achieve the main goal. So yeah, I'd say, Matt, have a look at the Heating Hub website. I haven't put a link to it because for some reason I'm not able to post on the Facebook group without it opening the live chat, and then it clashes and all that stuff. But yeah, have a look. And I've also popped in those EN references if you need them. I don't know, I think that's probably not what you were talking about, but they're useful to have there anyway. And there was another one. Was there another one? I think it was Matt again who said, you know, about if you're the most homeowners aren't aware of it. So if you turn out to be the most expensive quote out of 4, because you're offering the heat loss calculation, homeowners are just going to go. And at the moment, yeah, that probably is right. And that's kind of why we're doing these sessions and everything else that we're all working on to kind of change that. And it's not going to happen overnight, is it? It's going to be a gradual. It's going to be a gradual thing.
There's absolutely no reason. There's no reason, Claire, why you should be any more expensive than anybody else. In fact, if anything, you might be cheaper than other people. I know that there are boiler slingers all over the place, but there are tire slingers, aren't there? And there's engine slingers, and there's all sorts of things, and there's, you know, roof tile slingers, and there's all sorts of things in industries right the way across the board. You know, what makes you stand out is the fact that you want to do something and you want to do it right. I think that, you know, what I've found in my 40 years in the industry of running, I went self-employed when I was 17 years old. It was you know, literally, I've been on the tools ever since then, basically, because I couldn't get another job. So I'm unemployable now. But you know, working with that, I very, very quickly realised that, you know, if I went into the price war with a load of people, all I would end up doing is twice the amount of work for the same amount of money. And what I found, if I just shopped around a little bit, and I very, very soon, I mean, it takes you, you know, 3 or 4 years to get established, obviously, which is no mean feat, or it did in my day. It might take a bit longer now, I don't know. But, you know, if it takes 5 years to get established, that you will get the better jobs coming through. And you know, I was either lucky or just was able to sell myself a little bit better. I don't know, but it certainly worked for me. I would always say, you know, if it doesn't suit you, it doesn't suit your working practice, and it certainly doesn't suit your ethics. If you can afford to walk away and get something else, then certainly go and do it.
Yeah, there's another good comment here about. I guess this is Matt again. I must meet this Matt guy. I'm going to like him when I meet him.
I think you've already met him, Kim. He's made a comment about having been on one of your courses.
Oh, yeah, oh, right, okay. Oh, fantastic. Well, there we go then. That's great. But I mean, there's a really good example he's mentioned there. You go around, you do the job properly, you balance everything up, you set the flow rates correctly, and then when you go back later, you find out that the customer's changed it all because the radiators didn't warm up fast enough. And this is all part of customer education. When you fit your first heat pump, you stand around for a day and nothing gets hot. You know, it takes like a day, 2 days for anything to start getting warm. We're going into this different place now. We're not fit. We don't need to be fitting 30 kilowatt boilers. We don't need to be putting 30 kilowatts of energy into the system at 6:30 in the morning just to get the radiators red hot in a very short period of time. We need to use our controls, and I know Drayton have got their own optimum start controls. We need to use setback temperatures so we don't waste the energy from last night and let it all escape. So we've got to start all over again. But you try telling someone that the best thing to do is to leave your boiler on overnight. You know, people think it's going to be on, you know, belching out heat overnight. You know, if I get up in the middle of the night, go to the toilet, and I hear my boiler fire up, the parrot on my left shoulder is going, "Who left the bloody boiler on?" But the parrot on the right shoulder is going, "Come on, you've done the maths. You know it's cheaper to leave it on and not let the fabric of the building go down." So there's so much we've got to try and educate the installer, of course. Obviously, Matt obviously knows what he's doing here, but also the customer. How do you explain that to the customer? You know, we fitted heat pumps that are fully automatic. They have a setback temperature on their own. They have a daytime temperature on their own. They haven't got any internal controls. And because they were an elderly couple, I say that, even older than me, and in the end, to pacify them, we actually stuck an on-off switch at the bottom of the hall stairs, so that when they went to bed, they could turn it off. And when they came down in the morning, they could turn it on. And it wasn't connected to anything. But as soon as we gave them that, they were happy because they thought they were in control. But they, you know, you try and say to someone, when you pop down the shops, do you turn your fridge off? And I go, well, of course I don't. And you say, well, look at this new piece of kit, this heat pump. It's not a boiler. It's a fridge, which essentially it is. And so you've got to all the time. You want it purring away, ticking over in the background, generating a little bit of heat all day long to keep us warm. And that's why a 6 kilowatt heat pump can generate not only the 6 kilowatts we need for our house to keep us warm, but also all the hot water that we need, because it's going to go overnight and it's going to be working when we don't need the, you know, when the house doesn't need the heat itself. So it's education. All it's not about sales. You know, the sales guys, they just want to sell you something new. But if you don't understand why and what it is that you're buying, we're getting nowhere.
Absolutely.
We're getting nowhere. I listened to a video recently where one of the heat pump companies is disemboweled, that's not the right word, is it? Disconnected inside the weather comp controls, because they're beginning to realize that the installers don't know how to set it up. So they're getting the phone calls. So someone's made the decision, right, let's not do this high-tech stuff. Let's put an on-off switch on it. Who cares if it's not efficient? We're not going to get the phone calls. Yeah. And that's really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, like you say, it is all about the education of the homeowners. And I think, you know, the government know that as well. You know, they have referenced this in these new legislations and these new policies. And, you know, when they're saying, you know, in whatever, I can't even remember how many years it is, we've all got to move to heat pumps. And like, until probably, I don't know, 5 years ago, who'd even heard of a heat pump, unless they were really, really forward thinking. And now you're telling 40 million houses to get a heat pump because that's the way it's going to be. And it costs $8,000 to boot. You know, that's where, you know, I think they are on board with that. I don't know what they're going to do about it. We've got organisations like 𝗵𝗲𝗁 who do a lot of promoting to the consumers, and they have a consumer focused website, and they produce documents and infographics explaining about ways to save energy and all of this stuff. And like I said earlier, I think it's going to be a gradual thing, and it will take time. And we have got forward thinking installers, you know, even in the group. Matt, you're obviously one of them, and it's great to see that there are some out there. You know, we need these champions to then take it forward that step further, and kind of like Kim was saying earlier, I think, about, you know, you don't want to share your best practice with your competition, but almost like we are way beyond that now. And we kind of have to have someone who wants to share it with everyone, because otherwise the planet's going to disappear. And I don't mean to sound like an eco warrior at the moment, but I am a little bit. But, you know, that's the kind of way we need to go. And the guys need to step up and do the learning and go out and push it out there to the consumers. And the government and the manufacturers need to do their part as well. And, you know, I'm fully on board with that, obviously.
Well, the government have made the right noises though. Now they literally 55-degree flow temperature, or 50 degree mean water temperature is going to become mandated. That's happening. So whether we like it or not, we've got to go towards low temperature systems, and the government are going to enforce that. They're going to be using various things like the digital benchmark system, which is gaining more gravitas as we speak. They're also going to mandate heat loss calculations for every new build, and they're going to be asking for them at the point of boiler replacement as well for low temps in the coming years. So it's there, it's happening. You know, it's not a question that the public are going to really have an awful lot of choice. They're going to have to come on board, and they're going to have to be re-educated for this. You know, gone are the days, well, you know, the radiator is not hot. They can't have that anymore. It's got to be, if the radiator is not hot, you've got to say, are you cold? Simple as that. And they won't
Yeah,
be.
exactly. Are you comfortable? And if you're comfortable, then don't worry about your radiators not being hot.
Exactly. Yeah,
But like you say, it's how long has it been like that? It's been like that for years, and customers are used to that, and it is going to take a bit of time, but we'll get there, and it will happen. And you know, the homeowners are just going to have to understand that this is just the way it is, and that's just that, isn't it?
The very best systems are the ones that sit ticking away in the background, and you don't even know they're working. They're the best ones.
No fiddling, and just fit it and forget it. Well, I think we've covered everything, everything from world peace to low flow temperatures there. Digital benchmark, deal with illegal installers. Someone going to change that on the front line?
I'll take that. I'll take that if you like.
Okay.
Basically, if you don't register your boiler digitally and set the benchmark up correctly and set the boiler up correctly, most of it will be done via apps, etc. And I suspect there'll be parameters in the boiler that will speak to the digital benchmark scenario. But if it's not been set up correctly, there won't be a warranty on it, and a letter will get sent to the clients. I should think, or the end users, I think, as the boiler is registered. So look, the bottom line is that, you know, we should never ever be frightened of accountability. Accountability is not our enemy. And for those of us that are doing it right, we've got nothing to hide. For those that are doing it wrong and being dodgy, then, you know, we're coming for you. Simple as that. Quite right.
Brilliant. Anything else to comment, guys, or are we sort of done here on this one? There will obviously be more sessions. I'm really pro for this sort of education session and just the chat about what you guys feel about it and how you're reacting to it, and also learning how your customers kind of react to this changing market. So we're going to do some more throughout the year. Rob and Kim are both going to be involved. There's one on balancing next week, I think. But we'll get that up and running. And yeah, I think we all done, guys. Have you got anything else to add, or are we all good?
No, I think that was very good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was very good.
Really good chat. Thanks ever so much, everybody. Thanks for everybody who's been on live today. And thanks to Kim and Rob. And we will see you next time.